The night was unusually still, as though time itself had paused to listen. The small village of Elmswith lay wrapped in silence, the only sound being the occasional rustle of leaves stirred by the cool autumn breeze. Lanterns flickered dimly along the narrow cobblestone paths, their golden light spilling across mossy walls and broken fences. Dogs lay curled on porches, chickens roost in wooden coops, and smoke from the last cooking fires drifted lazily into the night sky. On the edge of the village, a narrow wooden bridge stretched across the river. Its planks creaked softly beneath the weight of a boy no older than 16, who sat with his legs dangling over the water. His name was Eric. His eyes were fixed on the current, which shimmered with the reflection of the full moon. In his hand, he clutched a silver pendant, small, delicate, and impossibly ancient. That pendant was the last gift from his father, who had vanished years ago. No one knew where the man had gone. Some villagers whispered he had abandoned his family. Others said he had been lost to the forest, claimed by the shadows that dwelled there. But Eric believed none of those stories. Deep in his heart, he knew his father's disappearance was tied to something larger, something the pendant was trying to reveal. The pendant itself was no ordinary trinket. By day, it seemed dull and harmless. But under the pale light of the moon, it glowed faintly, as though breathing with its own life. Intricate symbols covered its surface, symbols no elder, scholar, or wanderer had ever been able to decipher. Tonight, however, the glow was stronger than ever before. The carvings shone like tiny rivers of silver flame, and the light danced upon Eric's face, filling his chest with both awe and fear. He pressed the pendant against his heart, and in that moment, he thought he heard something soft, like a whisper carried by the wind. His breath caught in his throat. The sound was not from the river, nor from the forest. It was something else, something inside the pendant. Find the tower, follow the river. Eric froze, his heart pounding. Had he imagined it? Or was the pendant truly speaking to him? The village behind him remained quiet, unaware of the secret unfolding under the stars. Old houses leaned together as if sharing forgotten tales, their windows black and lifeless. Somewhere far away, a dog barked once, then fell silent again. It was as though the entire world waited for Eric's next move. In the distance, beyond the rolling hills, the outline of a forest loomed. And deep within that forest stood a crumbling stone tower, long abandoned by men, yet not by time. Tonight, a faint red glow pulsed from its highest window, stretching across the sky like a heartbeat. Crows circled above it, their cries sharp against the stillness. Within the tower, shadows stirred. And among those shadows, unseen eyes opened. They had been watching, waiting. The moment the pendant's light touched the night, they felt it, like a signal, a call. And now their gaze fell upon the boy at the bridge. They knew what he was. Or rather, what he would become. Eric shifted uneasily, as though sensing he was no longer alone. He looked toward the forest, his pulse quickening. His friend Alara's words echoed in his memory. You're chasing ghosts, Eric. The pendant is just a piece of metal. Your father isn't coming back. But Eric could not believe that. Every time he touched the pendant, he felt a spark, a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. Tonight, that spark burned brighter than ever, filling him with restless energy. The river below him glistened strangely, as if it were guiding him forward. He leaned closer, watching as silver ripples curved toward the forest. It was almost as though the water itself was urging him to leave the bridge, to follow its path into the unknown. Eric's fingers tightened around the pendant. The glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, faster and faster, until he thought his chest might burst. Fear washed over him, but beneath that fear was something else: excitement, wonder, destiny. The owl hooted again, and this time it felt like a warning. Somewhere, branches cracked. A shadow moved in the treeline. Eric's breath came sharp, his eyes scanning the darkness. For a moment, he swore he saw a figure standing there, tall, cloaked, watching him. But when he blinked, the figure was gone. The night pressed heavier on his shoulders. He wanted to run back to the safety of his cottage, back to the warm fire and his mother's weary embrace. But deep inside, he knew he could not. Something greater than fear was calling him. He whispered to himself, voice trembling. This can't be the end of the story. It has to be the beginning. Far away, in the crumbling tower, the red glow flared, casting its sinister light across the forest. The unseen watchers stirred with anticipation. Their time was coming, and the boy with the pendant was their key. Eric clutched the silver charm one last time, unaware that every step he took from this night forward would draw him deeper into a journey of truth, sacrifice, and fate. The still night broke. The story had begun. Dawn broke slowly over Elmsworth, painting the sky in muted shades of gold and crimson. The mist clung to the fields like a ghostly veil, and the rooftops glittered with dew. For most villagers, this was just another morning, time to fetch water, tend to the animals, or light the first fires of the day. But for Eric, it was the morning after the pendant had spoken, and nothing felt the same. He stood by the window of his small wooden cottage, staring out toward the forest. His mother moved quietly behind him, her tired hands kneading dough on the wooden table. She had grown older since his father's disappearance, her once bright eyes dulled by worry and exhaustion. "Eric," she said softly, without looking up. "You didn't sleep." "I couldn't," he admitted. His fingers traced the outline of the pendant around his neck, hidden beneath his shirt. He didn't dare tell her what he had heard last night. The whisper, the glow, the feeling that his father's fate was tied to all of it. She would only shake her head and remind him of the dangers of hope. After breakfast, Eric slipped out quietly. He knew where he had to go. The river's path, the glowing tower, the whispers, all of it pointed toward the forest. But he couldn't face it alone. He needed Alara. Alara lived on the far side of the village, in a stone house near the old well. She was the daughter of the healer, sharp-eyed and sharp-tongued, with little patience for foolish dreams. Yet she had always been Eric's closest companion, the one person he trusted with secrets too heavy to bear. When he found her, she was already awake, grinding herbs in a small mortar. Her dark hair was tied back, and her sleeves were rolled up, exposing arms streaked with green stains. She looked up as he entered, her brow furrowed. "You look like you saw a ghost," she remarked. "Maybe I did," Eric replied, pulling the pendant into view. It gleamed faintly even in the daylight. Alara frowned. "Still chasing that? Eric, how many times have I told you? It's just a trinket. Your father. He's not gone." Eric interrupted, his voice sharper than he intended. "Alara, last night the pendant spoke to me. It told me to follow the river, to find the tower." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Alara sighed and set down her tools. "Even if I believe you, the forest isn't safe. People who wander too deep don't return. You know the stories." "I know," Eric whispered. "But I can't ignore this. Not anymore. If my father's out there, if there's even a chance, I have to go." Alara studied him, her eyes softening despite herself. Finally, she wiped her hands and muttered, "You're impossible, Eric." She grabbed a small satchel, stuffing it with dried herbs and a water skin. "If you're going, you're not going alone." Together, they set off toward the riverbank. The villagers watched them curiously, but said nothing. Children ran barefoot through the mud, merchants argued over prices, and old men dozed in the sun, oblivious to the weight of destiny passing by them. The river glimmered in the morning light, its silver surface stretching like a living path toward the forest. The current whispered against the rocks, as though urging them forward. Hours passed as they followed its winding trail. The fields gave way to meadows, then to thick clusters of trees. The deeper they went, the darker the air seemed to grow, until the sunlight itself felt swallowed by the canopy above. The forest was alive with strange sounds, low rustlings, distant calls, the crack of branches that seemed too heavy for any ordinary creature. Alara gripped her satchel tightly, her eyes darting at every shadow. "Eric," she whispered, "we shouldn't be here." Do you feel it? He asked quietly. Like the forest is watching us? She hesitated, then nodded. The trees seemed to lean inward, their gnarled branches forming twisted arches overhead. Moss covered their trunks like old scars, and patches of mushrooms glowed faintly in the dim light. As they pressed on, the river led them deeper until they stumbled upon something unexpected, a stone marker, half buried in roots. Strange runes covered its surface, glowing faintly like the pendant. Eric knelt beside it, tracing the carvings with trembling fingers. The symbols matched those on his pendant exactly. Alara's eyes widened. What does it mean? Before Eric could answer, the pendant grew warm against his chest. Light spilled from it, connecting with the runes on the stone. For a brief moment, the forest grew silent. Then, a deep rumble shook the earth. From the shadows, a pair of eyes glimmered, cold, sharp, and inhuman. The sound of claws scraping against stone echoed through the clearing. Alara gasped, pulling Eric to his feet. We need to run. But Eric couldn't move. His gaze was locked on the figure emerging from the darkness. It was tall, cloaked in shadows, its face hidden beneath a hood. Only the eyes burned with a crimson glow. The creature raised a hand, and the air around them grew heavy, pressing against their chests. The pendant's light flared in response, defying the shadow's grip. Eric staggered back, clutching it tightly. His heart pounded as the whispers returned, louder this time, urgent. The tower, find the tower. The shadow hissed, its voice like breaking glass. You cannot escape your fate, boy. And with that, the clearing erupted in chaos. Branches snapped, wind howled, and the forest itself seemed to shudder as the pendant pulled Eric and Alara toward their destiny. The hunt had begun. The forest swallowed them whole. Branches whipped against their faces as Eric and Alara ran, their footsteps pounding the damp earth. Behind them, the shadows hiss echoed through the trees, low and venomous, like a predator savoring the chase. Eric's lungs burned, but the pendant's glow guided his path, shimmering like a star in the suffocating darkness. Each flicker of light seemed to carve a trail where none existed, pulling him deeper into the maze of twisted roots and towering pines. Alara, faster, he gasped. She clutched her satchel, nearly tripping over a gnarled root. Where are we even going, Eric? I don't know. Just trust me. The river appeared again, its surface rippling with silver light. It seemed impossible. Their path had circled back, yet the current flowed stronger, as though leading them onward. For a brief moment, the shadow's presence faded. The forest grew eerily still, save for the distant trickle of water. Eric bent over, catching his breath, while Alara pressed her back against a tree, her chest heaving. This is madness, she whispered. That thing, whatever it wasn't human. Eric nodded slowly, his hand still gripping the pendant. It's guarding something. It doesn't want us to reach the tower. And yet you still want to follow? She demanded. Yes, he said firmly. Because if that creature stands in our way, then what lies beyond must be even more important. My father knew something, and this pendant is the key. Before Alara could reply, a low hum filled the air. The water of the river began to shimmer, ripples forming patterns too precise to be natural. Circles expanded outward, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Then, from the water's surface, a figure rose. It was not like the shadow they had fled, nor like any human. This being radiated light, its form shifting like liquid glass, with eyes that glowed a gentle azure. Its voice was soft, layered with echoes, like 1,000 whispers carried on the breeze. Child of the pendant, it said, turning its gaze to Eric. You walk the path your father once began. Eric froze, his heart hammering. You knew him? My father? The figure inclined its head. He sought the tower, just as you do. But the shadow bound him before he could reach it. The same shadow hunts you now. Alara stepped forward, her voice trembling. What is the tower? Why are we being hunted? The figure's form flickered, as though straining against unseen bonds. The tower holds the heart of the realm. Light and darkness are entwined there, in eternal balance. The shadow seeks to claim it, to drown this world in despair. Only the one who bears the pendant may unlock its gates. Eric's grip on the pendant tightened. His father's absence, the years of unanswered questions, it all surged within him. Tell me where it is. I'll find it. The being's glow dimmed, its form wavering. Follow the river until it ends. But beware, every step you take will be marked. The shadow will not relent, and those you love will pay the price of your courage. With those words, the figure dissolved into mist, leaving only ripples on the water. Alara turned to Eric, her face pale. Do you hear yourself? This isn't just about finding your father anymore. This is bigger, too big for us. Eric met her gaze, his voice steady but fierce. If the shadow wins, no one is safe. Not you, not me, not this village. I have to try.
My father died trying.
I won't run from it. Alara's eyes glistened, torn between fear and loyalty. Finally, she nodded. Then I'll stay with you. But, Eric, if this path destroys us, remember it was you who chose it. They walked on, following the river as the night deepened. The pendant's glow lit their way, a fragile spark in the ocean of darkness. But far behind them, unseen, the shadow lingered. Watching, waiting. Its crimson eyes narrowed with hunger. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the forest whispered a single word through the rustling leaves. The tower.